throw back to our last lesson. I need at least 5 of us to come up with one key takeaway. First, I want to ask everyone in class to please come on screen.
Good evening, class. So one
throw
major
back
thing
to
that
our
resonated with me in the last class was where you talked about us ensuring that we, like for every 5 years, we should acquire like a form of certificate. I never really thought about it. It was when I was going through my CV, I discovered that I hadn't even updated it in the last like 5, 7 years, and I was really like, wow. So like now I know, like, okay, like I have to ensure that minimum 5 years, you need to like brush up yourself and improve on yourself. And also when you were talking about the competencies, one major aspect I think we have problem, like let me talk about my facilities in communication. Because sometimes even when you pass message across by mail, by WhatsApp, by calls, some of them will still say that, I did not get your message. Initially, I used to get angry, but like when I started attending this class, like you said, there is no excuse for anything. You just have to do your best to ensure that you pass your message across. So if it means like dropping a note, like we entering the camp, sometimes if we pass the message across by mail, you also do like a paper one for those ones who we know, who will say they don't usually get the message. So as an FM, you should be able to deliver messages that, you have the intended results, and also make sure that your clients you like try to get into their mind to understand what they want and then work towards ensuring that it is done.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Well done. That's very good. Faraloa.
Okay. So you said something about for every problem there should be a structured response in place, and you should always plan what you are going to do and do what you plan. Fine, there might be times where you might need to improvise, but when there's a structure in place, when there's a plan to follow, it is easier for you to solve that problem.
Excellent. People that have the way things should go, they have less and less of the irregularities, all of those things that come to hit you. They are fewer and fewer. Once you start having an order in place, you have less and less of those things that you expect to come at you. Okay, so that's good. All right, Prince, take it away. You're muted. Prince, you're muted if you are speaking.
Okay, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. In the last, what I took it home in the last lesson was that the FM skills and the competencies. Although we have, since the commencement of this class, we have been talking about communication. I learned about other things too, like strategic planning, leadership, sustainability. It is so broad. It's broad to the essence that at least at one point or another, one have to get him or herself upgraded so that all these skills will be part of somebody's daily activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well done, and thank you for being here. Those who have
sincerely, I already have testimonies. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. We had someone start this program, and within the first 10 classes, she was engaged as the head of FM for a bank. And what she was doing before then was all these estates, residential estates, a supervisor and coordinator kind of roles. She was employed as head of FM for a bank, and the level is not the same again. Last week I was in a mall and I saw her drive a very flashy car. I said, so this is what FM is doing now, right? So bottom line, guys, is do not take for granted the project. Don't take it for granted. Don't.
We have a lot of courses actually, but I have two that are more interesting to me, like procurement management and facility maintenance strategies. Procurement management, it exposes us to so many things about procurement, the difference between procurement and purchase, all that you need to do to, abide by the ethics of procurement standard, everything that you need to succeed as an FM, in procurement. And at the same time, maintenance, facility strategic maintenance, one of the main things as an FM that really, puts you at that top, that will really make people appreciate and respect you. The essence of facility, maintenance strategy, the whole essence and objective is to save costs, is to ensure that, the operations of that organization keep running. That's the whole essence of facility operation maintenance. And in those, we have a lot of processes, the strategies to apply. Like for example, we have talked about the reactive / run to fail maintenance plan. Talk about the preventive maintenance plan and the predictive maintenance plan. So as an FM, I think for it to be top notch, for it to be at the top of your peak and to be respected in your discipline, you need to understand the three modules that I just mentioned earlier. The reactive, some of what's equivalent or whatever that you allow to be reactive, and the kind of preventive measure you deploy in the process and everything. So for me, it has been a resourceful and expository times in Max-Migold.
So I'm going to start from my right, take away from the last class. So let me do that quick refresher again, because I did them at different times in the class. You have the components of a building. The components of a building has one, systems, two, structure, three, fabric, four, furniture and fittings, and what? System, structure, fabric, furniture and fittings. Okay, yes. We'll bring down the systems. But there's something that I did not add. That's what we use to describe the surrounding, the sites. You can call that site or environment. Please update that, yeah? So this is what I would call your facility, yeah? Okay? Because your facility is a location where you have a building or multiple buildings that is used for a particular purpose, right? And these are the typical components that make up your facility, okay? So when we take systems, we're not breaking down again, right?
Yes.
So we talked about power generation, right? We talked about electrical. Power generation includes generators, solar, anything that has to do with power generation, to the point where the power is being fed into the building, right? Electrical is all the wiring network, the cabling, trunking, conduits, DBs, panels, and all of those, right? And then what else do we have? We have the plumbing. We have fire
Now the fire, we also call these safety systems, because a series of systems make up that safety system. And then we have the security system. This is where you have your access control, CCTV, and all of that, right? And then what have we missed now? We have the transportation, very good. This is where elevators, escalators, moving walks come in. And then you have the education, air conditioning, fantastic, good. Air conditioning system. Okay.
Right. Okay. Where were they? Where are they now? Where are they? What are their projections? What are their forecasts into the future? As facilities management, we must be able to measure. As facilities managers, pardon me, we must be able to measure where we are at every point in time. If you can't measure your performance, if you can't measure your activities, then how do you improve on it? Now I'm talking about you measuring performance. You can track that to the benchmarking processes that we must have been taught, right? Benchmarking, comparing apple for apple, considering cost, value, quality, whatever. Okay. So, for example, I can say very vividly, okay, that when I got here, my energy was X kilowatt is at a rate per kilowatt. Now I know where I am. Okay, I can tell you very vividly that when we got here, our satisfaction level from our survey was X. We are now X1 or X2, but we are going to X4. We've been able to track all this because we are able to monitor, we are able to measure our performances. So as FMs, to be successful in your industry, you will be able to measure your performances and you will be able to showcase your performances to your stakeholders. That is what gives you value. 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 Measure performance. Communicate it. Throw it in their eye. That is how you'll be successful. These are pumps. This is the cooling tower. These are HVAC components. Okay, this HVAC. This is the cooling tower that supplies the chiller. The chiller here are water-based chillers. Yes, the chiller can either be water-based or air, water-cooled or air-cooled. Okay, so here we use water because we have it in abundance there. Okay, so and it's part of what you need to do as facility managers is to ensure the quality of your water. No, I'm emphasizing it. Is to ensure quality of water, because if this water here is contaminated, okay, the contaminants will go into your system and you have bad indoor air quality. Okay, so this water too, we take samples to analyze. We wash this basin. That is what we, how you come in as facility manager. Are you getting me? So I'm going to open it for you now to see. And anybody can come here and just take a sample and say you want to check whether you are really doing what you are supposed to do. Is it clear or not? Are you getting me? So that's part of what you do as facility manager. Come up with a strategy to ensure you have the right water composition inside of this thing. Come up with a strategy to ensure this is what's taken care of, cleaned. The motors are working, the pumps are there, it's not corroding. That's where you come in as FMs. Then the water harvesting that I talked about, you are standing on raised flooring. So, the water harvesting that we talked about in class, it happens here. If you remove all of this, excuse me, the water is being collected from here. You have kuburas underneath, ducted to the reception underground. So from where we collect all the water, we harvest them as it were. That's the right word. We harvest the water and store, then we process. All right? All right, so the chillers are in there. Okay, they are carrier chillers. Just for you to, you know, let's enter from here. So per chiller, the VFDs are there because the chillers act as the compressors, right? Okay, good. So you need to critically manage and control the energy. All right. Can you see? Very good. This VFD now is running at just 19%, 19.5%.
That one is running at almost 80.
Yeah. So if I didn't have this installed, I would have been running this pump, this line on 100%. So I don't so much loss. Yes, but now I'm saving about 80% of the energy. And you can imagine the energy consumed by all this critical equipment. Can you see energy management now in operation, practical operation? This is 19. This is not running at all. This one is running on 85.8%. Are you getting it? Yes. So if there's more demand on that machine, that one will give it to it. Maybe increase to 30, or you can even increase to 100.
Is the increment manual?
No, it's being controlled by this machine. It's automated. All right. Another one can be running at whatever. This is 0. This one is running at 30%. Are you getting me? So if you have all this, you reduce your energy consumption very, very significantly. Very, very significantly. You can see we are saving about 80% on this. 80%. You know what that means? If you were to run on all the time on 100. All right, so, and as facility managers, your environment must be clean. It is not because I knew that you guys were coming here today that this place is looking clean. No. Come any day, any time. It must be clean. That is why you are there. You must ensure proper housekeeping. Okay? Good afternoon. I think you guys will throw in some fresh air here, Ola. The odor here. The machines here are turned off, Abby. We are kept on there, so that intermittently, so that I can throw in fresh air. So, like I was, are we together now? Like I was saying, this is the thermal efficient glass wall, right? This is one of them. You agree with me that it's quite hot out there, and you are here. Are you feeling any form of unbearable temperature? No. So that's what we are talking about. Are you getting it in reality now? Wow. Okay, so that's what we are talking about. And of course, I showed us this. This is the motion detector that works with this. This raised flooring. It's just it's wood encapsulated in aluminum sheet. Yeah, it's actually wood inside, but covered with So it allows for it's part of the green features too. Space flexibility and optimization. All right. Okay, if I put on this now, this controls this work with the daylighting. Okay, I think maybe the panel. It's the one that controls the illuminance. It senses it works with that motion sensor and detectors. Yeah, it's the sense. Then this one will regulate it, whether to come off full or for energy management.
But you need to install this at interval.
Yes, it's at interval. So this is the building management system. We are privileged to have it in Heritage Place. It's a very, very expensive venture. I think it cost over 500 million naira. Okay. So, but what it does, it's part of the smart features of the building. It enhances efficiency, if I can put it that way. It brings about efficiency in all operation. Go to the home page. So here we control. From here we can control the UPS, all the UPS in the building. As heavy as those elevators are, they are backed up by one UPS, 60 kVA UPS. So in charge of power outage, you are ensured of a continuous operation. Okay. UPS lift being monitored. These are the UPSs. What's happening? Yeah, these are the lift. We have 6. Okay, should anything be wrong with any of them, there will be an alarm here telling us. So from here, basically, you can control anything in the building. These are our split unit ACs. Okay. These are our generators. Okay, if a generator is running now, no. Can you see generator 2 is running now? Okay. If this is running, you have this flame here. Okay, telling me run on generators. Okay. This is the fresh air handling unit that we saw on the road.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It seems this Thursday is rather just fly by so quickly. It's another Thursday, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's lunch hour. Today is the 6th of March, 2025. My name is Paul Erubami, and I'm your regular host and trainer on the lunch hour session FM every Thursday. Today, looks like I've shared the wrong screen, right? Let's see. What do I have up? Let's share first. So today we are looking at cost control. Yep. So I have that on another screen. I hope it is cost control you are seeing on your screen. And can I get some confirmation if my audio is coming through clearly and you see my screen that I'm sharing?
Yes, the audio is coming.
Yes. Yeah, let's see.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, so in today's session, we're going to be talking about cost control and financial management. It's something that most FMs struggle with. In fact, if we have any key or major difference between the FM's position on things in subdivision and that of the CFOs, CEOs, or those at the top, finance will be at the heart of this quarrel. It's been age long. FMs always don't get enough money to solve the problems, to do the things that we need done. And the CFOs and CEOs are concerned that we are spending so much money, we are not seeing value. Or what we think is value is not what the FM thinks is value. There's that divergence. And then there are others in the system who also see a lot of wasteful spending. Of course, it sounds so normal and so necessary for the FM to keep things going, to keep things in order, right? But it may not always be the case. It may not always be that's exactly how management sees it. It becomes a challenge where there is that disagreement. So, in our bid to solve this problem, we know that we cannot control. We know that we cannot control um, management. We are not supposed to try to make them to understand FM. Because they understand FM, they provide what FM needs. No, 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 that's not the idea. We want to train FMs to understand their businesses, their organizations, to understand the strategy, to understand the financial implications of decisions, how it affects the larger organization, both short-term, mid-term, and long-term. So that the FM becomes better at taking decisions that are not only as a decision that makes him spend on necessary and important items, but also items that are aligned to organizational strategy. So that's why we really don't talk about uh, cost control in isolation, because sometimes you may get it wrong, thinking that once you are able to reduce the amount you spend, then you are doing well, because that's usually a challenge many people have. Okay, so if I reduce the amount I spend, I'm doing very well as an FM. But if I keep reducing the amount I spend without being strategic about how I reduce or what I reduce on, I may end up destroying the entire quality of service that I've been hired to. So at the end of the day, you will have this balance to maintain. I want to spend the least amount. I also want to provide the best of services. I want to make sure that resources are available. I want to make sure that the highest level of results and achievements, goals, achievements are met by my organization. That is my, all of my thinking. And because of that, I want to have that balance. I will spend money, but I must spend wisely. What does it mean to spend wisely? And that's about the whole idea of financial management for facility managers. Okay, so before I dive deep into this, share my thoughts on this very important topic to facility managers, I would like to remind everyone that we have closed admissions into the FM Mastercraft 23 that started in February, started last month. So at the end of the month, we closed admissions. So everybody still interested in taking the FM Mastercraft diploma should prepare for the April batch. April is just next month. So start, enrolling now, start putting your payments, contributions towards that tuition so that you don't have to be hit hard by the amount. Very soon, you will see on our website that the prices have changed. Unfortunately, so the reality hitting us is very clear that we have to raise our prices just to be able to keep the product, keep the service in the market, and ensure that we can keep running. So the physical class is going to be 975,000, just 25K shy of 1 million with the next batch. And the virtual class is going to be 750,000. So that's the current reality we have. The actual value or the actual price of the FM Mastercraft diploma is $1,000. If you convert that to Naira, it'll be twice what we're even asking now. So what you are seeing in our pricing is a customization, trying to adjust, trying to adapt to the reality on ground so that we don't price out of the market. So that's the new price. But for the April batch, we will maintain 750K for physical and 550K for virtual. For those who know, if you know the price, that's this old price, you can pay it and lock it in. But those who come to the website to sign up and pay for the cost will pay the new price, because that's going to be published from next week on the website. So that's our reality. In the meantime, I keep promising, and I'll keep making sure that I keep the promise of keeping the lunch hour every Thursday open and available and free to everybody. Every session you engage with in the FM lunch hour is available on our social media platforms permanently, on our YouTube page, and other platforms, so that you can always go back and watch the sessions and learn some things and take them to work in your field. FM is a practical profession, it's not a theoretical profession. So you won't be hearing things that you probably can't relate with, or something you have to memorize or cram. It's something that everything we say in FM training should impact a decision making, a thinking pattern, a strategic analysis, something that is practical, something that's real, just about mindset adjustments, so you can start doing things better. Because we basically won't prescribe what you should do, but we help you think, we help you analyze, we help you take decisions in ways that will reflect best practices and highest value for your organization, and also improvement in your own career and life. Okay. That being said, Max-Migold Limited is a front runner in facility management in Africa. We provide facility management services. We provide energy efficiency, smart buildings. We provide asset tagging, asset management systems. We provide energy audits. We provide technology and software. We provide operations and maintenance for facilities. So if you have issues with your facilities, you need consultants to take a look at, please contact us in Max-Migold. If you are constructing a new project developer, you need consultants to work in the team to guide the engineers and all the other builders in what they build to ensure operational readiness and sustainability. Please contact Max-Migold. We're the consultants for you for that. If you want to outsource your FM services, your operations and maintenance activities, please contact Max-Migold. We are the front runner in FM operations and maintenance services. And if you just want us to train your team, you want us to deploy technology, you want us to come and solve a problem like high energy costs, and you want us to do an audit and help you, streamline how energy is used in your facility, we have all the systems and technology to do that. If you just want to deploy software to manage your transactions, your activities in your estate or property, please contact Max-Migold. We are there for you for all of the services. We have stayed at the forefront of all of them, including training. But you see, because the passion has always been to share knowledge and get as many people as possible of skills to the level I and my team operate in, that's why we do a lot of activities in the training sphere. And we want that to resonate with everyone that engages with us. Okay. All right, so let's get right into this. Cost control and financial management. In this session, we'll be looking at budgeting and financial planning. We'll be looking at cost saving strategies. And then we'll be looking at reporting on financial metrics, performance metrics related to finance in the FM organization. We'll be talking about how to leverage technology for cost control and risk management and financial sustainability. All of these are what we're going to cover in the next 45 minutes in this session. Okay, I think I did a bit of an introduction, on costs. FMs provide services, they provide spaces to enable the organization to increase or improve its productivity. They also ensure the improvement of the quality of life of the users of the building. Providing all of this requires us to spend money, whether we are providing in-house or we are outsourcing some of these services, we need to spend money. The whole idea of this session is to talk about the monies that we spend in this industry and how to ensure efficiency. Efficiency in simple terms means making the little money you have go as far as it can get, stretching it for as far as it can get. Okay, and this includes being able to allocate resources in a smart approach where you spend only the least amount for everything you need to spend on. This enhances sustainability and performance, not just performance of yourself as a professional, but also performance of the building as it meets the needs of the users. Okay, and then of course, organizational profitability. Every organization will have to live by the simple profitability equation of profit is equal to expenses less, revenues less expensive, right? So if you have as the FM, you are holding a very key lever in that profitability equation for your organization, because on the expenses side, you are the king or one of the kings in the expenses side. On the revenue side, you're not a king. You're probably not even playing major roles in the revenue side, right? But when you don't play your role well on the expensive, angle of that equation, profitability is highly impacted by what you do. Okay, so if an FM spends too much lavishly, on things that don't bring value, don't add to the organization's profitability and productivity, what you're going to be having is profitability will be going down and down because expenses are going up. Okay. But if the FM is smart, intelligent, understand the processes, understand life cycle and all the other concepts that are attached to how funds are supposed to be spent, the FM spends optimally, right? And then because it spends optimally, the nation's profitability goes up. So don't see yourself as, because we spend a lot, we don't contribute to the profitability. We may not contribute to the revenue, but we contribute significantly to the profitability because we all meet in that equation. And so if I'm smart about how I spend, I will be contributing to profitability. I can be raising profitability because of my smart spending approach, which is supposed to be based on certain principles. The principles I'm going to be discussing in this session this afternoon. Okay. And so everything that has to do with the risk associated with, or if every spending you do has its own risk, and the FM needs to have a way of analyzing this risk before you plunge, before you make that investment. All right. So, what are the impacts of financial efficiency on operational success? So, I'm talking about the entire organization now, right? If there's financial efficiency, resource allocation and cost savings will be improved. I hear sometimes when somebody says, "Oh, this amount has been allocated for this purpose, but I was smart enough to, spend wisely. Therefore, I have saved, and the money is being brought back." Now, your saving should happen before the allocation, because as soon as a budget is made, an allocation is made for a certain purpose, that fund is no longer available for what it can do for the organization. So it's already locked in. Now, no matter how good you are in efficiency after you have, been given such a huge allocation, and then you now come back to say, "Oh, I didn't spend it because I was smart and I was intelligent," you have made your organization to lose an opportunity of where that money could have gone into and provided results. So the first point is, before allocation, before your budget is approved, you must do your due diligence and ensure that you have vetted all costs you are putting forward, so that it is only the least amount that you are asking to be allocated. Okay, because later, trying to do all this due diligence are not planned for other purposes. It's even okay. Sorry, I think I got off a little bit there. Okay. Now, your service quality is not directly proportional to how much you spend. In fact, service quality and productivity can actually be hampered by irresponsible spending, because the perception of your building users and your customers and managers or stakeholders in the organization of your service quality is always tied to the kind of resources you expend on it. Their final decision, their final assessments of how good you are in terms of your service quality will always be balanced by how much you are paid to do the job, right? So don't think that if I spend the highest amount, I'll be perceived as doing the best work. Apart from the aspect of managing expectations, which often is very high when you spend too much, and you often can show value for all that expensive, you will also spend in the wrong direction, in such a way that people will begin to see your spending misaligned with their expectation. And there's nothing as annoying to a customer than that you misunderstand what they really need and you throw money at every problem that came your way. Then if we talk about sustainability is all about protecting the earth, safeguarding and protecting the environment, reducing our impacts on negative impacts on the environment. If you think about it, if you don't think carefully about how you spend, you acquire things you don't need, you generate waste you don't need to generate, and they'll go back into the landfill. You will burn energy that you shouldn't burn because you've not been meticulous in doing an audit to ensure that energy is used for the right purpose, and only the much energy you actually need is actually being generated. That's against sustainability. You basically spend all that money and you're working at cross purpose to a strategic goals of your organization. And then of course, if you manage your finances effectively, you reduce financial risk and operational disruption. It's possible to just spend out and then eventually not have for something that is critical. A minor failure can become embarrassing because you do not have the reserve to work with it. Okay, and then the entire organization too has improved performance as an organization because the FM is optimal in the resource provision that helps everybody achieve what they want to achieve. All right, so what are some of the key challenges? Of course, the FMs are not demons. We all have things we are trying to battle. So sometimes someone looking at us and expecting us to throw some magic wand. Oh, I paid you $1 million yesterday. How have you not done this, right? It sounds as if every time we get a dime, we should do, a billion things with it. But we have issues. The first is costs are always rising, and FMs don't have a way of applying the increased cost on a daily basis to the clients. Say those who are managing, multi-tenanted environments, it's very difficult to, for example, raise energy tariffs in a vending system without having to do a lot of explanation, data analysis, and so on and so forth. Sometimes even at that, it still meets with dissensions and disagreements among the stakeholders. We don't agree, this is too high, and so on and so forth, right? So rising costs is a big issue. Energy costs, maintenance costs. Maintenance costs in terms of labor and materials are going up. In just a couple of years ago, you could put out an ad for technicians and you'd be getting people coming to say, oh, I would accept 45,000, I would accept 50,000, but try that again. If anybody knows what he's doing, we'll not accept those kind of money anymore, right? We're now beginning to employ technicians for 200, 300, even 400,000. And you'll be wondering, oh, what are they doing? Just maintenance, right? This is the reality on ground today. Okay, so while we're trying to optimize costs, while we're trying to not raise, costs for the client and the users excessively, we need to be able to communicate rising costs and defend it. One way that you can do this with transparency is transparency. Many FM teams, FM leaders in the industry are still struggling with transparency. Please be transparent. It's easier to lay it out. Let the customer know what's in it for you, right? So they don't begin to assume that you are trying to make so much money from everywhere. So if I put it out and say, look, the cost of this activity or this job is 500,000, but for me to do it for you and do it very well, I need you to pay me 100,000, right? Let it be very clear. Don't say, oh, the cost is 600,000, I'm going to do it for free. Nobody believes that anymore, right? I have a cost, and they should be able to understand that my cost should be covered So with transparency, I'm sure it becomes easier and easier to transfer the real cost of delivering services. It's important that you're able to transfer the real cost because FMs, we are not finance providing organization. We are not banks. We are not microfinance banks. We are not central banks. So nobody should expect us to be covering their costs because that's something that is happening now where the FM feel obliged to lie about some other aspects and raise, the money there. And the areas you cannot push the real cost of the client, you'll be absorbing it and hoping that you're recovering from it. That's dishonest business. Play it out the way it is, in an honest fashion, and I'm sure you're going to have customers that understand. Because at the end of the day, when you show them the real cost, right, and don't don't take this the other way around. If you show them the real cost and they tell you no, it can be cheaper, please show them the cheaper option. Show them the cheaper option because there are different prices for acquiring different grades of labor and materials for every kind of activity or service, right? So show them the cheaper option, right? If they want it to be cheaper than you can be engaged in, because there's a level to which you, as an individual, as a professional with your reputation, cannot engage further, right? Then you respectfully decline and back out. But if they want something cheaper, find something cheaper, right? And then, show them, but make sure that your service level agreement is clearly stated. They wanted this, and this is the service level they are getting for that. So it's not tomorrow they will now say, oh, you're not good, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. No, don't do that. Carefully document the customer's expectation so that you can put it out and sign as an SLA. Okay, balancing quality with budget constraints. This is the point I was just making now. Okay, so we don't have that money, this is how much we have, and so on and so forth. Then we define what quality is. Because some will start quoting to you how the previous FM who was receiving millions or billions of money in the place was so much better than you, whereas you have come in to accept peanuts with promises that you are going to do better than the previous FM. Since this year, I've had so many people call to say, oh, we want to change our FM. Can you come and give us a quote? I know that all FM companies are actually telling their clients, prices have gone up. We have to make adjustments. And instead of some of those clients to accept the prices have gone up, they are rushing out to search for other FM companies to say, oh, come and replace. And all they are looking for is that if you send them a quote that's cheaper than what the incumbent has offered, so they can use it to go and negotiate with the incumbent. Look at a company as important as visible as Max-Migold has given us a lower quote than you. Can you not bring your price down to Max-Migold? And that's something you must be careful not to fall into that trap. Because once you get into that, it becomes a downward spiral that all FM companies that every service provider will suffer. We don't want that to happen. The costs are rising in all aspects, but we must ensure that we are able to document the quality the client is able to pay for. Okay. And then, of course, you have aging facilities that are leading to unpredictable repairs and unnecessary expenses. This is where your risk management, approach comes in. You must be able to document the condition of the assets you are managing from time to time. At least once a year, do a thorough review of the asset quality. Look at the mean time between failure of the previous year. Look at the cost that entered it in terms of repair costs and the parts that have been replaced in the last year, and use that to determine what the condition index for that asset is. As the condition index gets worse, you should expect more unpredictable repairs and emergency expenses to come up. So that now begins to affect your budget. So you don't say, oh, there are 10 items in my budget and this is the amount for each item. Put an amount for, contingencies and risk, items, including emergency repairs. Because if you don't have that and you have your budget locked in, you have to go back every time and try to, especially for multi-financial environments, very, very complex. Even for corporate environments where you still have one boss, one budget, one decision maker at the top. If you come for something that you've not planned and gotten pre-approval for in a budget, it's often very difficult. In fact, it shows that you are not competent. So this is an area that FMs used to miss out. And one key way that we miss this point is when we do our preventive maintenance plan. We create a PPM schedule and we cut the entire PPM and then we use that to create our maintenance budget. We forget that there are other items. In fact, more than 90% of all the things we are managing in our facilities are unplanned maintenance. The strategy for them are unplanned maintenance, which means we do not have a schedule of activities for them, but we are supposed to have an estimated budget for them. And that is often left unattended to. So when your budget is approved for the PPM items that is clear, then you miss out on the non-PPM items. You end up with no budget for it. And if that happens to you, you have to always come back to see, changes, approval, step out of process, activities or approvals for you to move on. And that can become really daunting for some organizations, for individuals. They have compliance with regulatory and safety standards. When budgets become tighter and tighter, those compliance items become less and less important. And that can become a big challenge. For example, your fire hydrant system might still be working, but you need some money to do a recertification annually so you can get a certificate of fire safety. You have elevators that need to be audited and inspected and certified on LBZ, and you feel, why would I spend this 200 or 300,000 per elevator when I could easily just use that money to fix something that is primarily needed, right? So less and less importance is given to statutory compliance. And that's where we begin to build up risk in our site. Things can suddenly go wrong, fire can break out, elevator can collapse, and all of a sudden, you found on the wrong end of the stick. You're basically going to start trying to explain how you tried to do it, but there was no money for it. So what I will always say to FMs is the things that have to do with compliance and regulatory safety standards, you must keep them on the highest level of priority. Highest level of priority. It is better for you to open the windows and use natural ventilation because you could not afford to power the air conditioning in the building than to put everybody at risk of fire or regulatory clamp down. So in terms of priority, know how to prioritize. These compliance and regulatory safety standards are at the highest level of prioritization. Okay? And then, of course, technology and innovation should not come at a cost that's prohibitive to the organization. Many organizations want to adopt technology, but when you come around and, oh, this thing is going to cost you 40 million, 70 million to implement, they just back down and ask themselves, extra 70 million on what we are already spending is unthinkable, right? But you can start adopting cost-effective technology in little ways, okay? Using forms and templates to create, simple tools for managing requests, feedback to clients using the surveys and receiving feedback from clients. You could have asset tagging that are done based on QR code that you can create from the spreadsheet, and you tag all of them, and you can refer back to the asset spreadsheet through the QR code to enter information. You can do maintenance planning in such a simple spreadsheet without having a software. So there's a way to start picking up little technologies as you advance. Many of it at the beginning stage will not even cost you money, right? So we will have one session in very soon in this series where we're going to just lay out some of the simple technologies that we can start deploying to help manage our costs and improve sustainability in our facilities. All right, so budget. I've seen so many budgets. I know FMs regard budget as a thing that guides what we do, right? But in many instances, budget is seen as the list of items that we spend money on, right? The list of items that we spend money on is an output. The entire budgeting process starts from defining what we want to achieve, defining the goals, strategies of the organization, and our building users. Once you define those goals, you now move from that definition and understanding of what the client is trying to achieve to what you as an FM team or a body or department is going to do to help the organization achieve those. It is from those activities you create a work plan, a schedule. It is based on that schedule of activities that you now have, this is the cost for each period. That's how a budget is created. And budgets are typically two types. So basically, there are two types of budget. There is the budget for day-to-day routine activities. These are the things that you do, utilities, like energy, HVAC, your maintenance, your basic operations, salaries, insurance. There are so many things that come up under this OPEX. There are things that you just keep doing to keep the place running. It is actually the most important budget. It is the most visible budget. It's the one that everybody sees, what the FM does on a regular basis. There's diesel in the tank, there's electricity, there is, the place is clean, all of those things that's the OPEX budget, right? If you handle your OPEX, your operational budget very well, your capital budget is something you do to augment. So every now and then, due to natural wear and tear, because you're doing effect operations and maintenance, does not mean that things will not still age. A generator that served you for 9 years, it's an old generator, right? At some point, it needs to be replaced. Even if you've done overhauling on it and you change all the key components, even change the full engine, whatever it is, at some point, the generator will still need to be replaced. In fact, all those overhauling and replacement of engine and major components are all not supposed to be in your operational budget. The operational budget, I think, that happens routinely. So the things that will have to happen every now and then, beyond 1 year, sometimes 2 years, 3 years intervals, or once in 10, 15 years, those are the items you put in a separate budget called the capital budget or CapEx. Now, so if you are trying to share with your building users, maybe in multi-tenanted environments, you want to let them know what your budget is. Don't throw in everything into a single budget, because your operational budget is supposed to stay as flat as possible. It might vary just slightly based on inflation, currency fluctuation, general price changes or movements in the economy. So it will rise, but very shallow, right? But the capital budget will not follow a pattern. The year you are replacing a generator might be up here. Oh, 15 million, 20 million. The year you are only just replacing maybe a fence grill, because they are rusted, you probably will spend very little if that's all you are doing that year. And then the year you're probably taking off all the roof and replacing them with sustainable roof or better roof, you probably will go up again. So your capital budget can go up, down, and it's easy to manage it separately, so that you can take decisions, do individual analysis, do project reviews on every item and decide how to do them. In many cases, some items can be so live, the occupants or the owners might decide, let's phase them. Let's do some this year, and the next year we'll do some. Say, for example, you want to replace the interlocking tiles in your entire road network in your estate. Of course, the cost will just be, over the roof. They were all installed the same year, so they'll be due for replacement the same year, but we can't afford to do that. So we're going to phase them. We're going to 1 to 10 this year, with 11 to 20 next year, and so on and so forth. Now, that can become a standard project, but that budget is handled separately from the operations budget. And it's important that while you are tracking expenses, gathering data on budget variances and all the data that goes with the OPEX, you're also doing project reviews and analysis. You're also looking at the difference between what was intended or planned versus what was actual in project plans for the CapEx. At the end of the day, you want to ensure that, one, the right amount was budgeted for everything. Not too much, not too low. Your budget too low, you get into trouble. Budget too high, you create problems for the organization. Okay. And then secondly, you control how the budget is spent, such that you spend when the spending is due. Things that you should do are actually done, not say, because I don't want to spend the budget, I end up not doing. If I don't want to do that particular activity or that project, I should go back to planning, right? So that I can release the budget for other purpose. Not that I have the budget locked in and I decide, we may save the money because the economy is getting bad. No, that's not right. If you've done your analysis, gotten the approval, you need to execute it, because you need to perform the purpose for which the budget has been allocated. So apart from tracking, you make sure that everything that you receive in terms of budget approvals are aligned to organizational goals. In some cases, FMs may not be too involved in budgeting. You might have people in management who basically decide based on our revenue structure, this is how much we can spend on FM, right? Even when that is happening, and they're even coming around to say, okay, this is how much we're going to spend, but part of this will go into this aspect of FM, this is going to that aspect of FM, leaving you less room to move around budgets into different things. My advice for you is not to resist such, don't call it interference, is to understand the pattern that comes out of the kind of decisions they make for you. When they say do this way, spend this much, do this. Learn what exactly is driving those decisions, because once you know them, you master them, you begin to bring ideas, analysis that aligns with that kind of thinking from senior management. More and more, as you mature in that job, you start getting freer and freer hands, leeway to take decisions. Subsequent years, they'll probably just leave the budget for you to plan, because they know that you now know how to think. You now think like them. You now understand the organization and its requirements. Because of that level of alignment, they cannot allow you. You cannot force that. You cannot force that. You have to demonstrate alignment through one, careful analysis, having the right data, full understanding of what's happening at the top by being connected to strategic objectives and goals, being close to the kind of decisions that management make at the top, being honest, that you can be trusted, and having a very high credibility as an individual. Those things will enable you to work in such a way that management will begin to release more authority, give you more autonomy to take decisions. And before long, you're the one creating the budget. So it doesn't happen overnight. You need to earn it. You need to be at the point where your decisions are now being trusted, that are always going to be in the best interest of the organization. Okay? Because most of the time, when management takes decisions about how FM should spend, how FM should be treated, how FM policies should be enacted, is all to protect the company from the FM. And I say this without equivocation. It's important that we don't put ourselves in situations where organizations are trying to stay alive, stay afloat, and try to hold us back just to stay afloat. We're supposed to understand enough. We're supposed to be in situations, in a position where we understand the state of the organization at any particular point in time. We're able to make proper analysis and come up with options that suit the state of finances of the organization, the strategic direction of the organization at any particular time. That's when they know that we have reached that maturity level to leave us free to act in ways that would help the organization to prosper. Okay. And then for FMs, is it enough to just know what you are going to do today? You also need to have a sense of what the future holds. And to get a sense of what the future holds, so you can be able to plan well and send the right information for approvals and for all kinds of planning support for management. You need to have a set of data you are depending on. You have to be able to create trends and patterns. I come to a facility and you cannot, you know how much the energy bill and cost is last month and this month. You don't know how that has grown from 7 months ago, from 12 months ago to last month, right? And as such, you don't know what the next set of months for the next 12 months is going to look like. That is a disaster, because what you basically do is you are not able to generate forecasts. You are not able to create a rolling budget. A rolling budget is the budget that extrapolates based on the last month for the same month in the next year. If you're able to do that on a monthly basis, once the month ends, you use that month's data and analyze that data to extrapolate, the budget, what it should look like for this same month in next year. You have a continuous 12-month budget, right? So being able to use your data, trends, the analysis of how that, and this is not just financial, because the things you do are the things that that drives into financial. For example, the use of water in the facility. You can track chemical use, energy use for drawing water from through boreholes, the maintenance cost of both preventive and reactive maintenance on the entire water production, treatment, and distribution, the entire plumbing system. Those are costs that will vary up and down, right? But those costs will vary in most cases according to the occupancy and the season. So just think about it. Season can be traced to, you can use temperature data to track season. If the temperature is very high, there's a high likelihood that people will use more water, shower more, drink more, and use water for all kinds of things more, right? Now, so that's one variation, one dimension of tracing how value is created, how resources are being used, to how water is being produced and used, right? Now, what about occupancy, footfalls? Imagine a mall, an office, or whatever. Are there variations in occupancy, those who sit in the building? What I call the dead load. What about the live load? People who come to the building to visit, to transact, to do one thing or the other. Now, if I'm not having a means of tracking those data, I'll be failing in the kind of assumptions I make regarding my plumbing, my water treatment, my chemical purchase, and all that. I'm not linking what I'm spending money on what's important to the organization. Because if I'm able to create that connection, I can now begin to report my plumbing expense, on certain metrics like number of footfalls in the retail center, or visitors to a commercial property. I probably will be making a huge mistake. I really can't tell why things are moving in the direction they are. Just this morning, I was in one of our sites, and I'm looking at the energy bill. Over $1 million. There are only very few occupants, right now in that estate. Why is this bill so high? But she's trying to look at, what could be causing this high cost. It was when I now looked at the tariff compared to other sites, and I realized that, oops, this site is on the band A tariff compared to other sites who are probably using more kilowatt hours compared to this site, but their overall energy bill now per occupant is way less. Is way less. And in one site, an occupant could be, if I use the number of occupants to divide the energy bill, it's probably 300,000, 200,000 per occupant per month. Whereas in other sites, we're getting an average of less than 100,000 per occupant per site per month, right? So that tariff itself is a metric. Being able to juggle these numbers and create a kind of analysis that helps you understand what is happening, the trends, be able to forecast is very important as FMs. You can't just wait for the bill and pay it, because that's what's pushing us away from management. We've not seen the bill, we don't even know how much to expect. When the bill comes, boom, the bill is so and so. Well, that's it. I don't know how to arrive that. So ignorant that you'll be looked at as someone who is not professional, and before long, they're considering how to kick you out. Now, the FM does not just decide, even if you are given the power to create a budget, right? You don't just decide what to spend on. You should ensure that your budget supports the business growth and efficiency. You should ensure that the strategies you deploy for cost control align with corporate priorities. Okay, so it's not enough to say, oh, we can't put on generator anymore, except we from this hour to this hour. It's not you have to decide. Okay, so have data. The discos provide lights. In the last 1 month, we've had power available more during the night or during the day based on our tracking. These are the numbers that trends, right? So if we're going to look for a block of hours to put on generators, to increase efficiency and productivity and improve the quality of life of people, this is the block that has the least number of the least percentage of availability of power from the disco. We can use this block to put our generator. Now, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to ensure that the best outcome is deployed to the mission using the data that I have. So it's not enough for me to just throw decisions out at the organization. I must learn what the organization is trying to achieve, what outcomes are trying to achieve, and see how, in a bid to save cost, I'm able to use the resources I have, the limited resources I have, to provide it, to stretch out the service value that I give as much as possible. Okay. And then sometimes we get so short-sighted about cost control. We begin to take knee-jerk responses, actions to cut that, cut this, cut this, cut this. No, stop that, without thinking it through. And in many instances, they are all short-term measures. Oh, leave it first, leave it first. After this quarter, we'll review, right? Take a long-term approach to financial planning to help you stay the course, so that once you start something, you don't create a precedent that you cannot sustain into the future. A few ideas too that can help you focus more on preventive or predictive maintenance more than reactive, especially for things that are normally to be scheduled for preventive. So moving parts with friction, equipment that have wear and tear, natural wear and tear, put more effort on preventive maintenance, because every breakdown will cost you more. And the cost of that breakdown is not just the cost of the materials and the labor that you have to mobilize and stop everything else you are doing, but because of the productivity losses. Always think breakdown cost in two parts. One cost is the extra cost of fixing that breakdown, but the bigger chunk of that cost is the cost of productivity losses. People cannot do what they want to do because the equipment has broken down. I'm not sure I want to spend too much time on energy efficiency in this session. I'm sure we can all relate with the need to have control on our energy costs. Energy cost is running close to 60% for many sites, many facilities now. And if you can't focus on that to get it right, then I don't know what else you are doing in that facility. Because come to think about it, there's a lot of wastage, You never done an audit. You don't have circuit level metering. You don't have an energy management system in place. You don't have any smart controls to ensure that things can turn off autonomously in those are really consuming more energy in the facility and so on and so forth. You are really, really failing because you just pay. In some cases, because the energy cost is not part of FM cost, the FM departments or the FM team don't even see it as something they need to worry about. They just know that somebody else is supposed to pay that. It's when you do it, you just pass it along, let them pay. But at the end of the day, when they're not to accumulate the cost of running the facility, they're going to add all that energy bill that you didn't think was your business, and they're going to throw it up and say the FM cost is really too high, right? Or let's cut our labor, let's drop some staff, let's do this and do that. It will be coming from management, whereas it could have been more efficient, could have been more focused in ensuring that all of those data helps you bring forward ideas, solutions that can help you support the organization to save energy. Energy is a huge drainer of most organizations, killing profitability in many organizations. Another area is having, contracts that you probably don't understand. The vendor sets the proposal, you look at the proposal, you don't understand everything, you just negotiate and then you sign a contract. The service levels and specifications, the scope must be very detailed, and the cost should be easily broken down to cost scope items. So that if you want to take out scope items or scope items that are not being performed by the contractor, you can actually know how much that is, so you don't have to pay it at the end of the day. But all the contracts I've seen, most of them are all lump sum. Oh, at the end of the month, you get paid this amount. Whether it does or you don't do it. So you as an FM, you don't have a way of showing value for what services those vendors are doing. Okay, so what are some of the metrics? I think about metrics, things you should count, things you measure in your financial performance. Cost per square foot, cost per square meter that we do here. If I know my total cost is so and so, I want to know, how much I'll divide that by the total square meter. and that becomes my cost. That is actually a benchmark requirement that you know your cost per square meter. Okay, your maintenance expenses. If you have a maintenance schedule and you're spending on that maintenance schedule, compare that to the repairs that you have to do and the number of breakdown, mean time between failure for that repairs. That gives you another metric. And then there are so many metrics. Energy consumption has a ton of metrics you can get from there. How much do you generate your own kilowatt hour compared to how much the disco charge you per kilowatt hour? What is the hour availability that the disco provides compared to your generator provision for a 24-hour provision? What is the cost of energy consumed per person per day, per hour, per week, per month, whatever metric that is? And then when you are doing projects, always try to look at return on investment, right? There are so many financial metrics for projects. You propose this project, you propose that project. The difference between status quo and investing in that project, you should know, so that by the time you want to calculate the return on investment, it will be easy and straightforward. Okay, so all projects, have cost benefit analysis before you can get approval. Even after approval, at the point of execution, before you get funds released through a business case or a project charter, you also need to do cost benefit analysis and put in place value engineering principles, which we're going to talk about in other sessions. And then I've talked about transparency. I've talked about being accurate, being open-minded with your financial reporting to clients. This is one area that is very, very difficult for every company. The client says, "Oh, I want to audit your books." And I'm like, "Oh, what right do you have to audit my books?" If I have separated my fees from what I'm helping you do, right, and you're paying my fees, everything else I'm doing for you is your business. I should be able to expose all of that to you to see. Okay, so let's have that, transparent approach in working with our clients, and we'll get better results because there'll be more trust, there'll be more value, there'll be more understanding between the FM and and this is not just FM companies, this is also FM department, because you have FM departments, and they're being seen in the organization that people just spend money anyhow, and they're all feeling fat of this huge budget that they're spending and so on and so forth. You have to debunk that completely. Show a transparent and honest, high business ethics approach to doing business in the organization, so that every time you come around to say, "This is what we need. I've done all my analysis. These are the data supporting this recommendation, and this is the amount that's going to go into fulfilling this recommendation." You easily hear approved, get it done. Here's the money, go and do it. All right, so when it comes to the energy we talked about and many other processes, you can actually automate processes, reduce human error, reduce cost. For example, you can automate controls that uses presence sensors to put off air conditioning and lighting, and that will save you a lot of money on its own. Technology can just do all that without too much sweat. And then as an FM, ensure that you can work with the right data, all kinds of data. I've talked about a few of them. Maybe in one other session in the future, I'm going to just really drill down on data and the impact of data in FM operations, how you can give us success in what we do. Yes, I think that's all I want to take in today's lunch hour session. Effective cost control is essential for sustainable FM operations. Balancing financial efficiency with service quality ensures long-term success. Leveraging technology and data-driven strategies enhances financial decision-making. Rapid development drive financial stability. And continuous improvement and strategic investment optimizes cost efficiency. We expect all FMs to, be able to take a few lessons from this and apply them in the operations and become better at what you do. So thank you all for being here. I look forward to another Thursday next week for another interesting topic. Stay close to us in our social media platforms, and you get a heads up on the topic. We are on LinkedIn, we are on YouTube, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, and we have WhatsApp and Telegram groups that you can all join. So stay close. If you have questions, please ask. Put them in any of these channels. We'll answer you directly and for everyone to see. So thank you and have a good rest of the week. So we'll see you again next Thursday. It's bye-bye for me.